Are you looking for the ultimate portability experience? And do you think the VL-10 is still too heavy and bulky? Does it look way too professional, has too many functions, and is far too complicated to use? Then I have something for you. The VL-10. Casio's smallest keyboard ever. Hello and welcome to Keen on Keys. While it's nowadays fashionable to release small versions of old classics, Casio was once again ahead of its time when they released a mini version of the VL-10 in 1982, just about a year after it was released, and before it even became a classic. To give you a clue how small it is, here is a keyboard with mini keys. This one has mid-size keys, and this keyboard has standard keys. The miniaturization of electronic devices became popular with the development of the integrated circuit. This reduced the size significantly. In the late 70s and early 80s, components also became cheaper and cheaper, which led to the production of many small electronic toys and gadgets. Today, miniaturization is an ongoing trend, and many synthesizer manufacturers bring smaller and smaller devices onto the market. For example, Teenage Engineering. Or look at the Korg Volcas, or Roland's Boutique and Ira series. But of course, there are certain limits to a keyboard. It still has to be playable in some way. The tiny TS is so small, I haven't even found a sharp picture of it. And synthesizers the size of a USB stick are not quite as practical. I don't know what motivated Casio to produce the VL-10 back then. I don't think they really considered the VL-10 too bulky. Maybe they went back to their core business and wanted to emphasize the calculator aspect a bit. Because of its size and its aluminum case, the VL-10 looks much more like a pocket calculator than the VL-10. And pocket calculators with music function have long been a hobby horse of Casio. For example, the VL-80. And maybe they wanted to create the perfect hybrid. Or perhaps it was a response to Sharp's EL-670, which also looks a bit like a keyboard. The VL-10 has many features of the VL-10. It's monophonic, has 29 keys or buttons, 10 rhythms with tempo control, a sequencer with auto or one key play, a demo melody, and the calculator. It has two thin piezo speakers, one for melody and one for drums. A power jack is missing. It only runs with a coin cell. And unfortunately, a few much more important things are also missing. An output jack, a volume control, balance control, octave switch, and most important, it only has 3 presets and it's missing the ADSR function. So you can't create your own tones. I need to clean it a bit. And I think I will also try to glue the metal again. Six screws on the bottom side. And 2 more for each side panel. Oops, a small spring. I wonder where that came from. And here's another spring. I think the first one was over here. They connect both metal pieces to each other. And look at these tiny speaker wires. The top piece was glued to the plastic with double-sided tape. It will take some time to remove the residues. This would be the only place for an output jack. I have 3 different sockets available, but none of them fits. At least not if I'm just drilling a simple hole. So I will leave it as it is. And here are the 2 piezo speakers. An unusual construction. Surprisingly thick plastic. Not much in here. Just a single IC. There's nothing written on it. But I suppose it's similar to the NEC D1867G in the VL-10, but not identical. The pin layout is a bit different. And while the drums sound almost the same as on the VL-10, the main voice doesn't. All 3 tones seem to be generated from just one waveform. And the filter stage is completely missing. That's why all 3 presets sound more or less the same. But from what I've heard, it might be possible to get access to the ADSR function with a few modifications. The ribbon cable that goes to the display is very fragile. It wouldn't be a good idea to pull the display out by the cable, but since the top piece isn't glued anymore, I can just remove the small plastic window and push out the display from the other side. Now it's easier to remove the tape residues. Well, a bit easier. I apply some WD-40 and let it soak for a while. Here's the final result. I just scraped everything off with this blade. That was the easiest way. And the plastic is now also somewhat ruffled. The top piece is cleaned and ready to be glued back on. I use super glue for that. I let it dry for an hour or so. Looks good. And now it's just a matter of putting everything back together. The sliders get some grease to hopefully make them move a little smoother. All in all, a nice construction. And finally I remove the rust from the screws for the side panels. It runs with a CR2032 coin cell. After inserting a new battery, turn on the VL-10 in calculator mode and press the P button, which is a kind of reset button. Otherwise, the VL-10 might not work properly. The tones are very simple. The first one is just a plain beep sound with a bit release. You can shorten the sound by pressing reset. The second tone is the same, but with vibrato and a long release. Reminds me a bit of the VL-1's Fantasy preset. You can make the vibrato a bit faster by holding down one of the tempo buttons. The keys, or buttons I should say, don't really move at all. You only need to touch them very lightly. And it's very easy to make slides. The third tone has also vibrato, but a short release. And that's it. Not much variation with the tones. The rhythms should be familiar to anyone who has ever heard a VL-1. Press the rhythm button and one of the keys that has written a rhythm name above. First is march, waltz, 4-beat, swing, rock 1, rock 2, bossa nova, samba, rumba, and begin. Then we have a sequencer. This can record a single monophonic line with up to 100 notes. The typical way to record something would be to record the notes first and the timing afterwards. Switch to record mode. Press melody clear to erase any previous recording and enter the right notes. The timing doesn't matter at this point. If you have made a mistake, the last entered note can be erased by pressing delete. Go on entering the correct note. When you're finished, press reset. Switch back to play mode. Autoplay doesn't work at this point, but you can play the melody with the one key play button to practice the timing. And you can also record this. Switch back to record mode. Start a rhythm and play the melody with the one key play button. Press reset. Switch to play mode. Start the rhythm. Adjust the tempo and press autoplay. Of course, you can also try to record the melody in real time. Switch to record mode and press memory clear. Start the rhythm, adjust the tempo, and play your melody. The rhythm will not be recorded, it's just helpful to keep the timing. Press reset at the end of the recording. This determines the exact ending point. Now switch back to play mode. Start the rhythm again and press autoplay. Unfortunately, it's not possible to play along to this sequence. And again, you can use the one key play button to play your melody or to record the timing again if you're not happy with it. You can also loop the sequence 4 times. And this is where the reset button is important. Let me show you another example. If you have pressed the reset button at the right time, you will get a nice loop. Press delete before autoplay. Then the melody will be played 4 times. The tone and the tempo can be adjusted afterwards. That also allows for some sound effects. Record at slowest speed. Now playback at higher speed. Finally, we have the calculator. Let's see if it's working. I enter something simple. 1 + 1 = 2. That seems to work. But there you have it. The smallest keyboard Casio ever released. Which generally makes it one of the smallest keyboards ever made. Perhaps a little too small. Even for me, who, as you all know, is addicted to mini keyboards. While the VL-10 is a fantastic keyboard for its size, this is more of a toy version of a toy keyboard. And unfortunately, not really a miniaturized VL-10. The missing output jack, octave switch and ADSR function don't make it very attractive as a musical instrument. It really doesn't sound that much different than a greeting card, or something like this. And I think the calculator function was more important for most users back then. Maybe Casio was a bit too early with such a device, as small devices are so popular today. Maybe a tiny CZ would be a thing. But that's all for now. Thanks for watching.